Welcome, Jessica O'Connor. Thanks for joining me. So, what you're participating in right now is a live video and podcast. So, it'll be audio and video. And I've just been interviewing community resources, basically, just like community specialists, people who I might refer clients to, people who are in the helping profession and who want to, who basically exist to support kids. And so it's been a really fun way for me to talk face to face with a lot of people that I've already spoken with, and also a lot of people who I am just meeting for the first time. And I think that now more than ever, people who might have done the, primary their practice primarily in an office with the community right around them are now more available to people far outside of where they are in, physically. And you probably found that in their office. So in your office. So I just want to really welcome you. Jessica O'Connor, for the audience, is a therapist. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself, but I met her because she works in my building and I met her in the hallway. And it turns out she really enjoys working with children, and she really kind of specializes. So Jessica, tell me and everybody else just a little bit about you and your practice and what you specialize in.
Yeah, great. Happy to do it. Thank you so much for having me here
Yeah,
today.
you're welcome.
So I am sitting in my office. I have a small private practice in downtown Campbell, and we do share the same building, which is wonderful. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work with children as young as 3 and all the way through the adolescent years. I have a master's degree in psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy, and I'm also currently a doctoral student pursuing a PhD in infant and early childhood development and infant early childhood development and mental health.
Wow.
Keeps me busy.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What school are you attending?
So I'm going to Fielding University. They're based down in Santa Barbara, California, and the program is remote, and so we're doing our classes via Zoom. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think the education in infant mental health will really allow me to help support some of our younger kiddos and just be a better clinician for children and be more knowledgeable and helpful and just better overall. So it's been a really exciting thing for me to pursue that a little bit further for the field.
Yeah. How did you choose that niche? How did you choose that for your doctorate?
Yeah, that's a great question. Marriage and family therapy and working with children is absolutely my passion. And I really enjoy working with the littles. So younger children that may be struggling with some of their behaviors, some of these kiddos that are going to school for the first time, preschool, kindergarten, and are really struggling to interact with their peers, communicate their thoughts and feelings to their friends, social skill development. And, I really had this desire to get better at helping the younger population. And for me, my background in marriage and family therapy had a really big focus on helping families overall and adults and adolescents. But I felt like I really could improve my abilities as a clinician if I became a little more educated in early childhood development and infant mental health and be able to work with a larger scope of kids.
Wow. Infant mental health. That's not something that a lot of people think about, but so true. So do you, in that, and just thinking about, because there are so many things, like I could imagine that you might envision yourself, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like doing a lot of support to the family, you know, so do you do that right now? So how does it work right now with your practice, like even with those little guys, right? I mean, so Do you just do like individual sessions with the kids? How is it working for you online? Are you working with the families? Like, give me a little kind of like understanding of that.
Yeah, sure. So there's no cookie cutter or black and white kind of program. It's really unique and individually tailored to what the child and family's needs are. But I would say overall, on average, a normal session starts with a check-in, and that check-in involves the child and the parents or family or whoever would like to be a part of that check-in. Usually it's about 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of the session. And then after that, I usually work one-on-one with the child or youth. And we do a variety of different activities, interventions, talk about different things. I always work with kind of an umbrella treatment plan. So we have some goals, some, things that we're working towards. But during that check-in is a time to see how things have been in the last week or so, or since our previous session, and to see if anything has come up during that time that would be really important or helpful for that child or family to address that very day. And so we would work through those things. And then at the end of the session, the last 5 to 10 minutes, we do a check out where the parents or the family come back. And then I encourage the child to communicate with their parent or family member what we did, what we talked about. So that way the family and the parent can really reinforce and be a part of this positive support system and practice some of these skills that we may have done, or keep going with the activities that we've done. So it's really a more weekly and involved thing instead of just 45 minutes once a week where you're getting those support services.
Right.
Online has changed that a little bit, but for the most part we still do that. We do our check-in, we have our one-on-one time, and then we do our check-out. Depending on the age, it may be more family involvement. Those check-in, check-outs might be 20 minutes. It depends on where the child's at and where the family's at and what they need help-wise, how best I can be of help and be of support.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. So I know you are in your office right now, and I know that when I moved into the building, like yours was one of the first offices I saw. And I don't know, I mean, it's hard for anybody to tell right now, but like her office is so small, but that picture behind you, like the wall art, just makes it seem like it's so expansive, it's so nice. And you have so many like little like puppets and toys and things. Like, can you show us a couple of those things and how you like to incorporate play into your sessions? Because I imagine that that's something that you do.
Yeah, so here's one of my puppets. This is our teacher. I always let the client name the puppet, whatever they would like. So the child gets to choose the name for our teacher. If they're struggling in the classroom and they're having a hard time communicating with their teacher, sometimes my teacher puppet will come and help. It's fun. We laugh, we cry. It's okay to feel all of those things during a therapy session. It's okay to feel emotional, to feel upset, to feel angry or frustrated or irritated or all those things. But I role play with the puppets. I use a lot of books. I'll read a story. We'll talk about it. Lots of drawing pictures and things like that. So I like to keep things fun. I have little card games that we play. I've got one that the kids really like called the Mad Dragon. We can play Uno. I've got emoji Uno. I don't know if you've seen
this. No, I haven't.
They seem to really like this, and even virtually we have fun with it. I've got social emotional learning flashcards with little monster characters on them, and different ways to engage the youth and have fun with it. Sometimes I'll send an envelope in the mail if I'm doing my work virtually, and it'll include stickers, little wooden kind of stick figures for them to draw on. We do associations with feelings and colors. I have little dot stickers that, if they're feeling let's say sad one day and they think that sad is blue. They can take a blue sticker, they can put it on their palm, and they can, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And we do lots of different types of things. I've got pinwheels and all sorts of fun things that we use for props and to really make it a fun, enjoyable experience. One of my goals when I'm working with kids is I want them to leave the session feeling better than they did when the session started.
Yeah.
So I really try and focus on that strength-based, positive support environment so that they can do that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love that you have so many little tangible, playful, colorful, fun things for kids to do. It just seems like you'd be able to really kind of tailor your therapy to the student and what they like instead of it just being kind of a talk therapy kind of thing. That's great.
Yeah, even virtually, certainly it's been an experimental process, and I like being here in my office, even though I work remotely, just so I have all these things available. It can be really helpful if I have a child that is struggling with nightmares, and I can reach into my books and I've got a story here about bad dreams. Or another one about what is a bad dream. So I have my tools and my resources here, and I find that helps.
Yeah. One of the things that I know we talked about in the past, and I feel like it's been so long since we had these conversations, and I guess it has been almost a year since I chatted with you, but you have experience in the school system and doing therapy with kids in schools, and then you kind of, decided that you wanted to be in your private practice. Can you tell me a little bit about that transition and like just kind of what you were experiencing in school, and if there are things that you feel like you can do in your private practice that you weren't able to do, or like things that you've grown since you've started in your private practice? And you also said that you really like working with kids who really have like some difficult things going on, and so like if you could tell me a little bit more about those, I'd love that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about that. So becoming a therapist is certainly a journey, for any other therapists or on their way to becoming a therapist, listening out there. It absolutely is a journey. And I was fortunate enough for part of my graduate school, my master's program, we had a practicum placement where we had a supervisor and we got an opportunity to work with a population, and I just so happened to be placed in a school, and I fell in love with it right away. I fell in love with working with the teachers and working with the staff members and being out on the playground and having that opportunity to interact not only individually with the student sitting in my office, but also being able to interact on the playground with children just overall. And so I continued my practicum to collect my hours towards licensure. And I spent 4 years with the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. I worked primarily at the elementary school level. And I did all kinds of things, from individual one-on-one therapy services in my counseling office to being on the playground and doing conflict resolution and talking to kids about peer mediation and learning how to solve problems peacefully. I was able to get involved with the PBIS support system they had, which is the Positive Behavior Intervention Support Services on campus. And we had a student store, and kids were able to earn their tickets. It was a really great thing. I was able to develop support system programs for students that were impacted by bullying, whether perpetrators of bullying or victims of bullying or both, bully victims. And I'm very interested in continuing my PhD dissertation topic in that direction on support services for children that are being impacted and affected by bullying behaviors, and seeing if we can provide some direct mental health support for those students, to be able to offer them support there. So I really, really enjoyed that. And I found that to be a great passion for myself. Private practice was a natural fit for me. And I have found that I do continue to work closely, sometimes with schools, with a release of information from the parents. I have been to SST meetings. I've been an advocate. I've helped explain processes that I had experience with when I was working through the schools. And being able to talk to kids about what's happening on school and having some of that language and vocabulary to be able to be with them on their level, to know that, there's certain places on a school campus where challenges are likely to be. And so to be able to come up with plans for that.
Yeah.
Having seen, firsthand some of the challenges that children can experience in a classroom setting, and even in private practice, really being able to be supportive of that, and be understanding and being able to say, help me understand what that's like for you. And then, where would you like to be if that problem or issue or challenge wasn't there anymore? And then connecting the dots, from where the child is now to where they want to be and where their parent and teacher wants them to be, and then building a bridge. Mm-hmm. And then with each session and with each intervention, taking another step along that bridge.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you have that public school experience. I feel kind of like it's close to my heart because I work in public schools also. And there is, having that perspective just gives you that much more of an understanding of how that you have like a model, like how that kind of works every day, and understanding what the process is like as kids are having difficulties in school. And it just is like, I'm sure it adds a lot to your private practice, having had that experience.
Yes. And with some of the more difficult challenges that can happen, one of the benefits of being on the school campus for those 4 years is, I got to see a very wide range of behavioral responses to certain feelings that these kiddos were having. And if a parent comes to me, and it may be really hard to talk about, if their child is, destroying property or hurting someone else, hurting themselves, to just be able to be there and be present to hear those things, to be a safe place that people can come to if those, kind of hard to talk about situations are happening. I'm here for that. I'm here to help with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And you just said, you got to see so many different behavioral responses being on a school campus. And I mean, that was one of the things that kind of gave me so much information, being on a school campus and seeing the huge range of all of the students, and kind of having a really solid understanding of what you might expect typically in a given situation by kids of a certain age, spending a lot of time out on the playground with kids of, all ages, say in an elementary school, and really seeing like how different kids at the same age are able to navigate or not navigate different kinds of situations. And, a lot of times, if you're, that's kind of one of the things about my private practice that is like a downfall, right? Like you don't get to spend as much time with lots of kids. So you kind of end up only seeing the kids who are having some kind of problem. And then I would also think that for parents, it's hard because their exposure and their experiences with their own kids. So they may not even realize that what's happening with their kid is different, or that they might be able to have like an expectation that's different than what they're seeing. And they may not even know that that's like could potentially be problematic,
Absolutely. And it was such an advantageous situation to be able to see how social skills and friendships and interacting with other children kind of played out some of those scenarios. So, I think that it's not unusual for a parent to get a call from the principal saying that there was, some event that, their child had done something, some behavior or used some kind of language. And that is the story that the parent receives on the other end of that phone call. In my experience, I know that there is so much more going on for that child than just what was communicated on that phone call. And so there is another layer of understanding there, and there's more that we can do to work on it. So, perhaps it was a response, it was reactive in nature. We can take a look at that. We don't have to focus on the behavior. We don't have to focus on the hitting or the yelling. We can take a step back and look at how the child was feeling in that moment. And then we can take an even further step back and take a look at how they were thinking. What happened that they saw or heard or smelled or taste that made them think a certain way? That thought made them feel a certain way, and that feeling made them behave. Yeah. And so we can go through all of those steps in a safe environment in my office or virtually, and taking a look at those pieces really gives us a better, bigger picture to be able to support that child. So, next time something like that comes up for them, they know what their triggers are. They know where in their body they're feeling these things. They know different tools and strategies that they might be able to use at different places, depending on how big those feelings have gotten to be able to navigate them. And then really importantly, they know who to go to if they need additional support, and they know how to communicate with those trusted grown-ups or peers as well.
Oh, you say it so well. Oh, I love this. So are there any kids, so you said you see kids like little, like 3, all the way up through teens. Are there particular kinds of kind of things that certain kinds of issues that you feel like you are really like are kind of your thing, and or do you feel like, are there certain kinds of things that come up that you'd go like, okay, this isn't really a good fit for me?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In my private practice, I work with a lot of children who have been diagnosed with ADHD, anxiety, children who are having behavioral challenges at school or at home, sibling relationships, helping with emotion regulation. So if a child is really having an extreme emotional response to something that may not seem like a big thing, like their Lego tower falls over, which certainly is upsetting, absolutely, a lot of validation there, but sometimes kids just have big meltdowns or really big tantrums, and so I work with a lot of that. I work with a lot of the everyday stuff, building self-esteem and self-confidence and feeling identification and knowing how to put those things into words. I might refer out in my private practice. I don't have a lot of educational background with some of the developmental disorders like autism or some of the sensory processing disorders. So I may refer out to that. I might do a collaborating coordination of care with another provider. It can be certainly beneficial for a child to work with an occupational therapist and have a mental health therapist as well. Or perhaps they have a psychiatrist and they're using medication as a treatment, and then having some talk, play, art-based type of therapy could be helpful as well. So yeah, I'd say that's the gist of it.
Yeah. And so does your license then cover California or beyond California?
Great question. Yeah, so I am licensed in the state of California to do therapy for people in the state of California.
Right. Okay, great. So now it's not just Campbell or San Jose or Palo Alto or Morgan Hill. It's anywhere in California you are available. I mean, we always were, but it wasn't like a typical thing that you would think like, oh, I live in LA, I'm going to find a therapist up in San Jose, right? But I think it's a lot more fluid these days, is what I'm finding.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
from my experience so far, the children have really liked getting envelopes in the mail, letters in the mail that have stickers and worksheets and different various things. I have started seeing some clients back in person in the office as well, if it's clinically important to do that. Telehealth is certainly not for every child,
Yeah.
and that can be one of the challenges of this time that we're in. I do have the necessary social distancing protocols in place. I myself wear a clear mask when a child comes into the office. And there's no shared thing, so each child gets their own Tupperware that has their own notebook and pen and crayons and colored pencils and different type of fidget manipulative or stress ball or whatever it is that's helpful and supportive for the child. So we get creative to best support the families and kiddos that we're working with.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you're doing a little in person when it's clinically appropriate, and you're also doing virtual. And speaking of COVID and this whole pandemic that we're going through, because it is October 2020, um, what are you seeing some new or different things kind of pop up in terms of mental health? What are kind of the trends you're seeing, and is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, certainly this is an evolving time, and we have to be flexible and mindful that this is nothing like any of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. I've seen a lot more social anxieties, children worried about being around people, going back to school. There's been more kind of grief and loss, especially at those milestone ages, like the eighth graders and the seniors in high school that graduated last year and
Yeah.
didn't have some of the opportunities to have closure, say goodbye. There's certainly some grief and loss work around some of those things that are happening there. And siblings. When siblings are at home for this amount of time, it can be really hard to get along.
Yes. I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And parents, I mean, like, are you finding, I mean, I know that there's a high level of frustration and irritability and just kind of like overwhelm in the household as parents are trying to work and teach their kids are in school and they don't get that break from them that they were used to previously. I'm
And
seeing a lot of that too.
and now the parents are doing remote learning. And
Right.
so, it is it's different. It is different for us
It's different.
all. And I'm a parent myself, so I get it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do.
So, Jessica, how do people contact you? What's the best way? Are you accepting clients right now?
Yeah, I am accepting new clients. The best way to get a hold of me, I suppose, would to go to my website. There's a lot of great information there about my philosophy and my modality and the type of therapy that I do. Certainly, there's many choices and there's many different ways to do therapy. There's a lot of different types of therapists out there with different personality types and philosophies behind the work that they do. So it's really important for people to find someone who is a good match and a good fit. My techniques are very positive. They're very strength based. We take a look at what's already working well for that child, and we really reinforce that and boost their self-esteem and their self-confidence so they feel good about the tools and techniques that they're using in their day-to-day living when these, natural ups and downs come into play. Yeah, website's a great spot. There's a spot on my website that you can fill out that emails me, and then we can connect that way. My website is just www.jessica'oconnor.org. O'Connor has an O-R at the end. Or a phone number, 669-221-5386. Or email jessica'oconnormft@gmail.com.
All right, great. And I'll put all of those, I'll attach it to the podcast and to the video that I post on YouTube. Yeah, and that way people can get in touch with you. And I'm really happy to have gotten back in touch with you and that I could talk to you about this. I love that you're so close to me, and I have thought about you with different clients so far, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be connected to you. Thanks for sharing everything that you have today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. And I would say if people are in doubt, just reach out to me. And if I'm not the right fit for what's happening for their family or themselves or their child, I'm so happy to help in finding that right fit, whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
I'm here to help in any way that's within my scope of practice and scope of competence to be able to do that. I'm really quite flexible. If I can be of help, I'm so willing to do that. Just reach out. That's all I gotta do. I'm here.
Yeah. And do you, on that note, if someone reaches out to you, they get you, and it's not a front desk, they get you. And then do you kind of like do a little kind of discussion with the family to kind of feel out if it's a good fit, and then you do a session, or do they come in for their first session and you feel it out then?
I always like to start with a phone call if possible with the parent, just to get a little background.
Yeah.
And then I always start with a free 20-minute, either face-to-face, in-person, or virtual consultation. So it's 20 minutes with the family or the child, or any combination that the parents or family feel is helpful, and just 20 minutes to see each other and see if it's a good fit. Because I think one of the most important things when finding someone to be a part of your support system is finding someone that is a good fit. So we start there. If the consultation, it feels like a good fit, then we schedule the first appointment from there.
Perfect. Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm doing with this project is I feel like if people can see and hear and get kind of a feel for the person that they could potentially be going to see ahead of time, it makes for like more connection, I think, and more just kind of authenticity, and makes better approachability to maybe take that step and reach out. Because I got inspired to do this just because in my own journey, I have found that it's so helpful. Like the best thing I can do is match people up with the right provider, because not everybody's a right fit, right? So I've really tried to network and figure out who's here to help and in what areas, so that I can try to make a match. Because a lot of the work that I do, I end up referring out after I've done my work. I refer to other providers, and I know for me, I would much rather refer to somebody who I've gotten to know at least a little bit, instead of just saying like, well, here's a list of people, I can't vet anybody, and not that I know how many people actually work, but at least I know their personalities and kind of hear their story. And it helps me feel comfortable referring people. And I think that it would feel the same for families, parents, and even kids. If a parent said like, hey, what do you think of Jessica? And like they watched this video or heard you talk or something, it just makes me feel closer to you. So I'm trying to do that for other people too.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm so thrilled that we got this chance to talk today. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, right.
Here I am. So, reach out.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. We'll stay on the line, but we'll hang up with our guests right now. So thanks everybody for joining me. You can find Jessica on the website and email that she mentioned, which I'll also put down in the description. And I can be reached as always at Jana, Jana, at jplep.com, or on my website, which is jplep.com. And thanks for joining us. Bye.